I'm going to be very honest with you, comrades. Just to, first and foremost, just acknowledge, I changed my talk completely, and I want to actually dedicate and thank candidate Rachel from Baltimore, who completely made me really think about how I wanted to give this talk today, because Rachel asked me in a workshop yesterday, the question specifically was, why did I join the party? And I know that might seem like whatever, I've been in the party since 1993, but it totally threw me and kind of made me flustered a little bit. And the reason why is I think a lot of times I think about sort of my evolution as an activist, right? Kind of, I think I mentioned some things about fighting racism, I wanted to be very thoughtful and very political, and I'm fighting to liberate myself, and I'm fighting to liberate my class, and and really sort of think about things in that kind of way, I'm fighting for socialism and whatever. I want to be very honest. When I met the party when I was 22 years old, and I, as a black, newly queer, not yet trans being in the world, I was wearing dashikis and combat boots. I think I had dreads at that point, still at that point in my life. But as an activist at that point in my life, to be honest with you, the reason that I joined Workers' World Party is because I wanted to win. I didn't have a lot of big, political philosophy behind it. I just knew in my gut, that understood that this organization was the organization that I was going to join because I wanted to win. So for me, and again, this, I think for a lot of us that have come into the political world and as activists in our life, it's a lot about our objective conditions. It's a lot about who we are. That's how I saw myself. I was the very first to be born in the United States of either side of my family. My parents are Caribbean, Jamaican migrants. I was the guinea pig that was going to school for the first time in Boston, Massachusetts, in a racist, segregated, city. Let's be real. I was a child, and I want to be clear, we had a big demonstration in 1974. I was 4 years old, so wasn't at that demonstration, but a demonstration against racism in Boston. And 4 years later, I am still a child on a school bus, having rocks thrown at me, having the N-word thrown at me, snowballs, taunting, back and forth. And this is me just going to school every single day as a child in elementary school. These are the things that shape me. In fact, there are two things that actually politicized me as a young person. One was the first Gulf War. And it was in 1990, and again, I might not have known that much about Palestine. I probably wasn't really clear about what was going on in the Middle East. But what I did know is that I had a friend who was Jamaican, who was younger than me, like a young brother, who was going into the military because he didn't want to go to college, because he wanted to find a job. And I gave him a going away party in August. And by the fall of 1990, he was one of the first ground troops in Saudi Arabia. And I understood in that moment about, maybe not the words US imperialism, but I understood I was opposed to this war. I understood that I didn't want my friend to be killed. I understood that black and brown people that can't find a job in the borders of the quote-unquote United States shouldn't be sent away somewhere else to die in some war. The other thing that shaped me, and I want to say, I met the party. I joined the New England Coalition to start U.S. intervention in the Middle East. That was our coalition name. We were the emergency coalition to stop U.S. intervention in the Middle East, and that was the first time I even met and knew of the party. The other thing that shaped me politically was the Rodney King verdict. I should say the non-verdict of the 4 cops that brutalized Rodney King. And this is, again, I was in college, I was 22 years old, I was literally graduating, and this is before the days of the internet, like really took off. There was no social media, we didn't have cell phones, none of that was happening. But someone had videotaped his beating, and it was global. And in my life, it was the first time we didn't have to explain police brutality. It was, you saw it, you knew where it happened. And then the verdict came down. I will always remember, 11 o'clock at night, that the verdict came down on television, and my phone, my house phone, lit up for folks in my community and my school that were just like, this is outrageous. And young people took to the streets. People in LA started saying, oh, hell no. And this was like the first time in my life I'd ever organized a demonstration, actually with my sister and my cousin. Very first time that students were marching all over the country. And I understood in that moment, comrades, I understood in that moment that it didn't matter that I had a piece of paper that said I was graduated from, college. It didn't matter because the police don't care about our education, don't care about anything that's valuable to our lives. They see our skin, they see our gender, they see our age, and they kill us, and they brutalize us. And in that moment, I knew that I wanted to be a revolutionary. But fast forward, I want to say and just share the moment truthfully of what made me join Workers' World. So I had met the party. I was in the coalition for 3 years. I was checking out the party, probably like a lot of you all are like, don't check out Workers' World, see what they're about. Let me see how these folks roll. And the thing that was, I'll tell this one story of the freedom of Nelson Mandela happened in Boston. The freedom of Nelson Mandela happened, and across the world, across the country, he was touring. He was going everywhere. And the city of Boston decided that the only place that Nelson Mandela would be in downtown Boston, in the most whitest anything, on the Boston Common, which is a good place to have demonstrations. We have demonstrations there all the time. But he wasn't coming to the black community. And black youth that I knew from Free My People said, oh, hell no. Nelson Mandela is coming to Roxbury, Massachusetts. We're coming to the black community. And so young people I knew were on stage with Nelson Mandela. They thought the city brought him into the black community. It was a big celebration. It was amazing. Our party was a part of that. It was awesome. But the thing that made me want to join the party was that when the ANC had a private reception, the social service groups, the nonprofits, the mass groups that I was around didn't get invited. The group that got invited, that the ANC wanted at this private reception, was Workers' World. And it made me understand the distinction of what it is to be in a party, to have international relationships with other organizations worldwide. And I've had the same experience when we've had trips to Cuba and Venezuela and other liberation struggles. The distinction of what a party does, to be a vanguard fighting organization. That is what made me understand, what is necessary to win? And with that said, what has been so important to me, and I don't even know how to count how long I've been in the party, it's not been that long. To me, it feels limitless in so many ways because of so much I have learned and have gained from being a member of Workers' World is first and foremost, what organization fights on every level, as Sarah just raised. I mean, really, we're not just fighting. We have decades of years of struggle around the disabled struggle. Or we could talk about going to Standing Rock and we talk about Day of Mourning and how many years and decades we've been a part of that struggle. Or we could talk about the first book on feminism and Marxism, or the first book on LGBT liberation, and also talk about that our comrades never had to hide and be in the closet to be communists and to be queer at the same time. I want to even just acknowledge and say something. I don't know if they are in the room. Danny, where are you, Danny? Is Danny in the room? Danny is not in the room. It's okay, I'm gonna talk about Danny real quick. I want to even just say, I think this is such an important thing. There have been so many times, and I keep outing comrades, there have been so many times at these conferences that comrades not only disclose things about themselves, whether their process around recovery, whether their process around the jobs that they have chosen in their lives, what have you. We're migrants, we're all the things that we are. But the thing about the party is that we make it really clear that every single, the comrade Juan has been talking about lumped proletarians. And we're like, we don't even think like that in this moment, that every member of our class, whether they be sex workers, whether they be migrant workers, whether they be low-wage workers, are all part of the working class. It's not to say that, of course, it's not to say that, and this is, I think, about the evolution. It's that we don't just sort of come to these realizations. We grapple with them. We look at that. I mean, again, it's generations of history and struggle of really getting a better understanding of, like, again, that there are comrades among us that don't use pronouns. There are comrades among us that are binary like myself and love the pronoun he because I spend a lot of money to transition as a trans person and love my binary identity, but still fight tooth and nail for my non-gender conforming comrades. And even more importantly, that our cis comrades are the comrades sometimes out in the struggle the furthest. Larry Holmes has been marching in Gay Pride longer than I have. That are the true fighters, fighting to make sure that our movement is as diverse and as inclusive as it can be. But the last thing I wanted just to say is about, and I might get a little emotional, is about how I actually truly met the party. She's not here. Comrade Maureen in Boston is the first comrade I ever met. And how, and how I met Comrade Maureen and why I think this is important is about the fact that, again, as a young person in Boston, Massachusetts, that probably didn't have a lot of Marxist understanding or analysis, I just knew I wanted to be free, I wanted to win. During the very opening stages of the Gulf War, there wasn't even, I won't even call it a rally. It was just sort of a convergence of people. Bombs are flying, the US is putting out, they're going to war, and people just met, like in an area in Boston. Folks didn't have signs, but folks are chanting and going back and forth. And there was Zionists, right-wing, screaming, yelling, and the truth of the matter was, I didn't know anybody. These were not my folks, these were not my people. I didn't know any of the folks there. I was alone, by myself. And a Zionist jumped up in my face and started screaming and yelling at me. And before I knew anything, a white woman came in front of me and jumped in and started screaming back at him and was ready to defend me, defend the Palestinians, defend the people of Iraq. And I just had to sort of like, and what is your name? And this was Comrade Maureen. And I say that because it's also what we've been talking about all week, that it's not just rhetoric. It is about what the practice looks like in the struggle, the Leninist application of the national question in fighting racism. And what it truly also means, and I'm just going to throw out Comrade Berta, because she's the first comrade that's ever talked about, also about like, we're not a utopian organization of some sort, right? You know, we figure this stuff out every single day. We figure out internationalism. We figure out intergenerational stuff. We figure out LGBTQ stuff with each other every single day. We also, in this conference, have talked about like even what it means, like that we are a cadre organization, we're a revolutionary organization, we're a fighting organization, and in a lot of ways we are like a family, truly like a family. That we know that we have each other's back, that we can call each other at 4 o'clock in the morning and say, comrade, this, so-and-so's gone on, or there is something going on in the city and we need to like move on a dime. or if our comrades are getting death threats, or our comrades are being chased by the state, that we know that we're going to mobilize and make sure that our comrades are taken care of. That's what we do in the party. So I'll wrap up with this, because this is something I think is really important. If you are like, and I don't want to make anybody stand, I don't want to make anyone do anything, but if you're looking for a political home, if you're looking for a place to belong, if you're looking for comrades, and that I want to say, you know, like we could talk about family, we could talk about it, but to me, comrade is the highest expression that we can give each other. It's the best gender-neutral pronoun. Yeah. Sam said, you know, the blacker we are, the redder we are. Vinny, I apologize, thank you so much. Vinny Copeland said, the blacker we are, the redder we are, the browner we are. I want to throw in the queerer we are, the kinkier we are, the younger we are, the more indigenous we are, the more disabled we are, the better we are, the more able we are to defeat this ruling class, to defeat capitalism, to overthrow it, finally get rid of it, thank goodness, be free of it, so we could just live our lives. And I believe, again, like I want to say it over and over again, I believe that we are the party that can make that happen. I believe that we can win. Thank you.